Okay, we have gone through all this now process of having rainfall here, and most of the rain in California falls in here, falls in this 40% of the area. So the blue, these dark blue and light blue colors that you're seeing here represents only 40% of the area of California. And in these areas, it falls 90% of the precipitation. On the opposite, these green, yellow, and red areas that you are seeing throughout the state represent 60% of the area. And in these areas only fall 10% of the precipitation. So it is, again, this paradox of larger areas, very few precipitation, smaller areas, all precipitation concentrated in there. Again, from the north coast, in these areas you may have up to, on average, 50%, 50 inches of precipitation, which is actually quite high, all the way to the Colorado River in this area, which is, again, is only those 5 inches that I mentioned. So again, 75% of the precipitation occur mostly on east and north, and most of the water demands are either south or throughout the coast. Actually, so again, this is, it depends. So in terms of agriculture, I mean, most of the agriculture will fall again in the Russian, some parts of the upper part of the Eel, Humboldt, Napa, Sonoma for the wine industry. We have the huge agricultural industry of the Central Valley, Tulare, Salinas, Pájaro, Santa Maria, Santa Margarita. We have here the San Diego, Imperial, Coachella, all these regions with high agricultural production. So that's where we have the agriculture. Yes, the cities, they are located San Francisco, throughout the coast, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, then Southern California, Los Angeles, up to San Diego. So that's where we have the largest concentration of populations. So as you're seeing, I'm pointing all this out because they are most of the times located where precipitation doesn't fall. So in terms of water supplies, most of the water supplies are during winter in the wet season, and most of them are either north or are along the east part of the state, which is the Sierras. Now, most of the water demands, as I mentioned, are in these are, well, we need water throughout the year, and that will be for urban uses, domestic use, during the dry season, during summer, and that will be for food production, and that's very valid. And again, we have most of this in the central part, along the coast and south. So as you can see here, we have two disconnections, and this is the bottom line of California. So we have a disconnection in time. So we need water throughout the seasons, and it only falls in winter. We have 6 months with the clear blue sky of California where it doesn't rain. We have a special disconnection, and that one is because most of the precipitation falls in locations where where the water users, the water demands are not there. So what do we do for that? Well, so in terms of time, you want to move water in time. Well, basically, we have developed a lot of reservoirs, groundwater, so pretty much storage, parking the water in time. So reservoirs, aquifers, they are time machines. They are water time machines. You put that water in there, and that water will be able to move through time to actually use it later in the season or later in a different year. And those are all the different reservoirs that we have throughout the state. Some of them are federal, state, local, and so on. Now, what do we do for to address this disconnection in space? And basically, we have built aqueducts, canal, pipes, and all these lines. In essence, we're moving water from the Sierras to the coast, and that will be Hechechi, East Bay Mud, we have Los Angeles Aqueduct, the Colorado Aqueduct, the All-American Canal, Coachella, moving water east to west. Also, we have a lot of water moving from the north, from the Trinity, Shasta, Feather, all the way down to the delta, all the way north to the um, California Aqueduct, the Delta Mendota Canal, the Fry and Kern, all of those that are just water going south. Also, some of the aqueducts going into the coast. Phew, that's a lot of water moving. Also, we rely a lot of, so as you're seeing here, we're moving water because we are importing and exporting water. What does that mean? That some places in these areas are moving water from the North Coast into the San Joaquin, into the Sacramento River. The Sacramento River lends water to most of the places. So actually this water that is coming here is because it really wants to go to San Joaquin and to the users in there. But it will also, the Sacramento will lend water to Tulare, Colorado River, the South Coast, Southern California, Central Coast, the San Francisco Bay, and so on. So this is how we're importing, in this case, and also exporting water throughout the state. Yep, we have used and abused the system, the water system in California. This is, in terms of precipitation, it typically falls 200 million acre feet of water. Now, million acre feet, that's kind of a weird unit. So you have an acre, so it's an area, and then you put 1 foot of water. So that's an acre foot. You have 1 million of those. Just to give you a sense of it, is imagine that you have a cube of water that is half a mile per half a mile per half a mile. Maybe a little bit more, but just keep with that. Imagine a cube of water of that half a mile per half a mile. It's a boatload of water. So, well, in California, there are 200 of those falling on a year. As they are falling, most of them, they are evaporating because of the forest and recharge about 120. So we have 80 million acre feet actually moving around as surface water or being recharged. Out of those 80 million, 39% are used for environmental purposes. It's not that they are actually used, it's just water that is passing through the rivers as Mother Nature used to do it. And as they are passing, they are recharging aquifers, they are providing a good water quality throughout the state and so on. And you're going to see that is in just certain areas. The remaining part, so those 41 units remaining, they are used consumptively. So it is water that is taken, put into the crops and sent back into the atmosphere for agriculture. And again, if you have breakfast in the morning, you value agriculture. And 8 are used for urban. Again, if you live in a house and water comes to your tap, rest assured that you need water for municipal and urban uses. Again, if you take a look at this big picture, well, we have half of the water used for the environment and half of the water used between agriculture and urban. So why such a buzz of all these environmentalists asking for more water for the environment? This is a very misleading graph. A lot of the times you're going to see people saying like, well, I mean, why all the buzz for the environment? 40%, half of the water in the state goes for the environment. Well, this is a graph where actually tells you the amount of water available. So this is this darker blue column. This light blue is the amount of water that is left or that is kept in the rivers for the environment. This will be this yellow. It will be how much water is used for urban, and this last one will be how much water is used for agriculture. So yes, there is a lot of water going for the environment, but pretty much in these two bases, in the North Coast and in the Sacramento, and most of it is in the North Coast. As you can see, there is actually no water left in the rest of the state for the environment. So again, when people tell you like, well, what is all the buzz for water for the environment? Well, there is it's only in this corner where actually there is water for the environment. For the rest, actually it's very difficult. Here will be about a third. Now, as you can see here, in this case about a third is for the environment, some for urban, some for agriculture. And then here in San Joaquin, pretty much there is nothing for that. All of the water is used consumptively for agriculture. And something that I mentioned about environmental uses is, imagine that you're bringing, again, you're the bread earner. You're bringing the salary, your salary for the house, but you're mute. So you bring all that water, all that money, put it on the table, and then the rest of the people living in the house take, let's say, 95% of that money, and they leave you with 5% of that for you to live. You're muted. You cannot talk. You cannot complain. Yet you're bringing all this money, and you're left with only 5%. That is the same analogy with water. You're bringing water is not an user. Water is the environment is not the user. The environment is the provider of water. And the good that we treat Mother Nature is how good it's gonna treat us back. That's the reality. And so, and the same it goes for agriculture. If you have breakfast in the morning, you value agriculture. That's food comes from the fields. That's, well, good food. We have also processed food that I'm not gonna talk about it, but that's basically what we have in here. And typically they should not be conflicting. There are ways to actually make sure that you can have good agricultural production and good water for the environment. That's what both need. So going back here to Tulare, so this is actually quite an interesting part. So Tulare has a very small amount of water available, but they're using more water than they have available. How is that possible? One is that this water moved from all these different other basins through it, and the other one is, this is before Sigma, this is a heavily overdraft groundwater basin. What does that mean? That they are taking more water from the ground, and not everyone, just a few, but they are farmers. Very few farmers, in those large industrial farmers, that they were taking more water from the ground than it was replenished. And we have heavy problems of land subsidence there. The same here in Southern California, Colorado, and the South Coast. The water available is less than the water use. And how is that possible? Because water is coming borrowed from Wyoming, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, and bring it through the Colorado River and the Colorado Aqueduct, All-American Canal, and Coachella Canal to the different agricultural and urban sections of here, urban demands of here. Phew. So, agricultural facts. We have about 30 million acres of pasture, 9 acres of irrigated land, and out of those 6 are annual. So you have these annual crops that they are rotating annually, and you have about a third that are orchards, vineyards. This is most of the water used in agriculture is for alfalfa, pasture, and corn, and that is actually to feed cows. That's the reality. Most of the water is used for people eating meat, and that's same like I am doing. I'm an omnivore, a meat eater, but you have to be aware that most of the water that is used for meat. Then we have pistachios, rice. So any one of you sushi lovers, almonds, field crops, vineyards, and all of those are these. So most of the water is used for that. Again, if you don't eat food, if you can get your nutrients from a different source than food, then you don't value agriculture. Agriculture is very valuable for us. Rice, it will be one of those that use more water, but this is also another misleading one. It's not how much you applied, because that water is passing from one plot to the other. So actually water is recycled. It has this kind of high feed of water per acre, but it is passing, it's not consumptive use. Alfalfa, yes, alfalfa is from 3 to 4 acre feet per acre, and that's water that is put it in the ground and then evapotranspire. Alfalfa require a lot of water. Pasture the same. Then we have the almonds, pistachios, deciduous trees, cotton, all the way to the tomatoes, truck crops, all the vegetables, and so on. So this is how much water is needed to grow crops. Population, yeah, since the gold rush, 1849, we have the boom in population. Something that I was aware the first time that I came here is that since 1960, 1950, it was this linear growth of population in the state. So every 500,000 more Californians every year. To me, that was staggering. So from here to here, 5 more million. From here to here, 5 million. From here to here, 5 million. So you can see that overall the trend that was staying there until 2000s. In 2010, we start actually bending the curve. So now not going every 5 more million every 10 years. Now I think that is actually big cutting back. So this linear growth no longer is holding. By 2050, is expected about 50 million compared to the 60 with the linear growth, but yet it's still 50 million people in California. And don't get me wrong, I was one contributing with my wife, also coming here to live now in California. So we're also part of the cause of this. Beneficial water use. This is, again, following that kind of growth in population in California. What are the expected, and again, this is the 9, well, at that time it was 8 million acre feet. Now, thinking that will be between 9 to 12 million acre feet of water use for urban water use. This is this will be with certain regulations how that water demand can be curved or can be slower or not, and this will be the same with all the infrastructure, all the different the history of infrastructure, that how we got to this realization of California from literally the gold rush and hydraulic mining, all the way to passing regulations to allow for irrigation districts. Then we have reclamation acts, starting with Los Angeles bringing water from Owens, and then San Francisco borrowing that playbook and now trying to bring water from Lake Tahoe and ultimately settle down in Yosemite Valley. Then the following ones that borrowed the playbook was East Bay, now bringing water from the Tuolumne. Then later playing that, borrowing the same playbook and the Central Valley, importing water now from the north. It was that, with the Central Valley project. Later the state water project came in line when it wasn't possible for the feds to continue doing this, and now the state can put in some dollars and then start building the state water project from the Feather River all the way to Southern California, the Colorado River in the 20s, 30s, bringing water from the Colorado and the Colorado Compact in the, I think it's 1928, towards Los Angeles, and also all the irrigation in Imperial, Palo Verde, all of those areas. Finally coming through the All-American Canal and the Coachella Canal going through Coachella Valley. So, I mean, all of this, then all these small reservoirs, locally owned, this is mostly PG&E, to produce all the different hydropower throughout the state, turbining 2, 3, 5 times that same drop of water to generate electricity. Of course, here we have some of these federal projects that are not only from the Bureau of Reclamation, but also from the Army Corps, put in theory, water or reservoirs to protect for floods, but actually they were heavily subsidized projects to put water here for agriculture. All of this where we are right now with this, every water being stretched out up to the point that the environment crashed. And with the environment crashing and us providing a little bit more value for the environment, then we have this era of conflict on there is not enough water, not for everything, and how to address those. So that's where we are at this moment, trying to come up with solutions that are that can have these co-equal goals, co-equal benefits, and the difficulty in trying to get those penciled down. So as you can see, this is a very intricate, complicated system that has all these iterations, and this is of course only what you're seeing on the surface. Underneath, we have a lot of, not in all the places, but in some places in Tulare, a heavy overdraft of groundwater at plain sight. This was no mystery. It was for 40 years extracting way much more water than it was actually replenished, and having land subsidence in these areas in plain sight until 2014, November 2014, when it was passed Sigma, and now with its implementation, and see how things are going there. So given that we have all this structure, and given that this year we are in a drought year, so how are we doing? What are we going to do? So as you can see, well, not only in the snow, but previous wet years can help to carry water from other years, multi-yearly now into today. So even though there is not that much snow, water levels on the storages are about on average, and that's because we are carrying water from one year to the other. Well, that was quite a lot. Hey, thanks for staying. Thanks for watching, and do send me an email if you have any questions. Take care.